So welcome to How to Be Hopeful. My name is Bernadette Russell. This is my podcast all about hope, how to find it and how to keep hold of it once you've found it. I'm really excited to be speaking to a local activist, pretty local to me. We're both in the same borough of Lewisham, and all about her work. So first of all, could you just introduce yourself to us, Nadia?
Yeah, so I'm Nadia Smith, and I'm a project manager and a director at South East London Community Energy. And yeah, I'm based in Lewisham as well, born in Lewisham, but recently moved back.
And how are you today, just in general? Because I just feel like it's worth letting people know this was recorded post the US general election votes and after Marcus Rashford got an incredible result from the government. So it feels quite cheerful at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the US election, I feel a bit 50-50. I feel like they kind of had a decision between two people that weren't great. They probably did choose the lesser of two evils, but it's not a position you want to be in an election. But yeah, definitely over here, much better. I mean, the work Marcus Rashford has been doing has been absolutely amazing, and that his voice has finally been heard definitely feels a lot more hopeful.
I agree with you.
It
felt like we really, all of us needed something to hold on to. And even if that thing, as you rightly express, is imperfect, it's still really important to let ourselves sort of just breathe a bit. It was just, I've got a lot of friends in America as well, so it's very nice seeing people dancing in the streets. That was just really lovely, just for a moment. Yeah, to let everybody
crazy. Yeah, it's something that's captured the whole of the US. It's kind of got the attention of the whole world, really, I suppose. So yeah, definitely a bit of an emotional journey that they went on, especially having to wait for more votes to be counted.
Wonderful to see. What an amazing woman as vice president, and that you know, her appointment is high profile, possibly more high profile than the president's. Because of who she is and all of that. So that's really great. It feels like a good conversation. I've had some conversations, Nadia, in weeks that have been so gloomy that it's quite difficult. So it feels better. It feels better right now. I'd like to start talking to people sort of personally about what has, if anything, has made them feel hopeful this particular week. And I wondered if there might have been anything specifically, we might have already covered it, but if there's been anything that's made you feel hopeful this week.
Yeah, so this week I actually got some news from a friend and someone I previously worked with, which was really exciting and really good to see. So last year I volunteered with an organisation that were doing sort of practical renewable energy learning courses in Ghana. And it was for sort of people in their last year of high school or high school leavers, people that have just finished. And one of our students there, he's called Bright, funnily enough, and he was super smart, super on it with everything. He has now just gone and designed a solar system for the primary school that he used to go to. And he's launched the fundraising for it this week. So the primary school will have electricity and it will have a new IT suite, and kids will be able to go on computers as well. So very exciting stuff, yeah.
And where is his fundraising campaign? Where can we find that if people want to help with that?
So it's called, the project is called Dream Renewables Ghana, and you can find them on Instagram, or they've got a Just Giving page up as well now. Yeah, it's really exciting because, you know, he came on our course and he's this kind of guy that's just interested in stuff and just picks things up like really naturally. But it's nice to see that he's gone on and applied it to the actual primary school he used to go to, and he went in and did a lesson for the kids as well. So
that personal connection is so excellent, isn't it? You know, when people go back to schools that they visited or places that they lived, I think it's really exciting for the community and the children to see that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's best, you know, whenever you're trying to improve something, that you start with yourself and you start with your home and your area. So yeah, I just think it's good that he's taken it upon himself to go out and do that.
Well, as I said to you, I was really excited to talk to you because you're local to me. I'm in Deptford, and the idea that there's this local energy company using the sun to generate electricity, channeling profits to people in fuel poverty, and combating climate change—that's a pretty mighty three-pronged effort. It's amazing. It's so brilliant and it's so hopeful. I just wondered if you could introduce us to South East London Community Energy and tell us a little bit about how it came about, who set it up, and whose idea it was. Its sort of beginnings, origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it is a bit of a big mission, and the mission came from a group of local residents in Greenwich and Lewisham about 5-6 years ago. And they had skills, across completely different spaces. So some were renewable energy enthusiasts, some were people that were interested in finance and in being entrepreneurial with businesses, and then other people were sort of protesters and founded in the cooperative movement and bits like that. But they all had sort of one vision, that energy should be clean and not hurt the planet, but also be affordable, and everyone that needs it should have access to it and be able to be sort of comfortable in their homes. And we know that fuel poverty rates across Southeast London are actually some of the highest in Europe. So I think the need was definitely there. And yeah, this group of local residents came together, formed SELCE in around 2014 now. Yeah, and it's just grown from there, I suppose.
I'm interested in how they found each other. I'm intrigued by that. Do you know?
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit of a network of people that knew each other from the, I suppose, environmental movement, because they all have very different backgrounds, but I would say they were all a little bit revolutionary in some ways. So I think it would have been sort of different marches or protests that they were at, and bits like that. But yeah, I don't think it was one specific place that they all met.
It was like they were really, in a positive way, there were great opportunities for perhaps people from very different backgrounds to meet, and climate change activism is one place, isn't it? But also, sometimes I've noticed people would just meet each other on Facebook or on Instagram, which is also a really lovely sort of positive side to what sometimes can be quite a negative space, I think. So how brilliant. Well, thank goodness they all met, and not long ago. I just wanted, I mean, obviously, I didn't realise actually what an incredible achievement in a relatively short space of time, really. Could you talk a little bit about where you are at the moment, and sort of your practical plans as an organisation to make those dreams a reality?
Yeah, so when we set up, we had sort of two main focuses, and one of them was putting solar panels on schools and community buildings. And then there used to be something called the feed-in tariff subsidy, which meant that we could make money on the energy that was generated from the solar panels, and any surpluses would go into supporting people that live in fuel poverty. So you might have seen that we talk about energy cafes, and we talk about giving advice to people who might be struggling to pay their electricity bills. So those were our two kind of original core areas. And now we've managed to install solar on over 14 sites across Lewisham and Greenwich. So there are a range of schools and leisure centres, churches, a really sort of a big variety of different sites. We've had some amazing volunteers that have supported us throughout this journey, and it's amounted to just over 10,000 volunteering hours now that have gone into SELCE. And we were counting this quite stringently initially, but then we got to 10,000 and we said, that's it, we can't count it anymore. But yeah, we've had sort of people with skills from completely different areas just come and help us out because they feel like it's the right thing to do. And that's what has driven us, and that's what's made us made us grow as quickly as we've been able to. And then on the fuel poverty work, every winter we offer our fuel poverty advice service. So that is making sure that people can come to us and ask for free and impartial advice on their energy bills. So that might mean advising them how they can switch supplier, how they can switch tariffs, giving them some measures they can actually put in their homes, like LED light bulbs, or we also have radiator reflectors that just keep the heat in the home a little bit more. And this year we've actually extended it throughout the whole year because of the coronavirus pandemic. So we were only going to run until March, and then we decided we just have to continue it this year because we've seen a lot of people hit by losing their jobs or being in positions where they're getting to the stage where they've got food from food banks and they're covered on that side of it, but they can't pay for their gas to actually cook the food when they get home.
Just before we there's so much to congratulate you on and also to cover there, I just wanted to go back a little bit. I just wondered if are you connected with, or were you inspired by other groups doing similar work, either here in the UK or elsewhere? Because I'm aware of actually not so aware of ones in the UK, but I've been connected with similar projects in Bangladesh. So I know there's lots of things going on all over the world. Have you connected with other groups as an organisation?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So not so much organisations abroad, although I'm aware that there are a lot of people working in that space. I haven't seen as many organisations abroad having it community owned, having it where people can actually buy shares in the company. But in the UK, community energy is actually a big movement, I would say. In most towns and cities, there is a community energy group, and we are very much involved with lots of them around London. There's a sort of umbrella group called Community Energy London, and we are members of them, and we're also members of Community Energy England. So yeah, we quite frequently work with organisations that are local to us, so Sustainable Energy 24, who are based in Dulwich, Community Renewable Energy Wandsworth, or Crewe, who are not far away as well. But yeah, definitely inspired by groups around the UK, because there's so many of them, and they're all made up of people that are really expert at what they do and experts in their field. So to be able to learn from each other for free is really, really beneficial.
In a practical way, Nadia, do you have to it sounds a bit of a funny question, but I'm assuming that the best possible sites have large roofs, so they're going to be like school buildings, church buildings, community buildings, I'm guessing. How do you approach schools, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, really. So you're very right in thinking that sites with bigger roofs are generally better. What we look for, though, is sites that have big roofs but also use a lot of energy, because you want most of your energy to be used on site to make the most of it, especially since the subsidies have been removed now. And we also look for sites that kind of the roof won't need replacing very soon, or it doesn't have too high a pitch on the roof, bits like that. But in terms of sites that we've installed on, it has definitely been a mix. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of parents that have come to us and said, I want this for my school, and then gotten the school involved themselves. We have had it the other way around, where schools have come to us and said, what can you offer us? How can you help us out? But yeah, I would say it's definitely a mix. A lot of the sites that we've got have just come to us through people that know people that work at SELCE, or know people that have volunteered at SELCE. So it's very much a within the network thing. So it is amazing to really think, if we started to reach out of our network further, how many people would be interested in it.
If you just think about sheer roof cover of schools in London, that's a lot of space, isn't it? So even if it was just schools, that would be amazing. Did you say that the subsidy's been removed?
Yeah, that's right. So the feed-in tariff, it was a subsidy that paid you two payments, One was on how much electricity you generated or how much the panels produced, and then a second payment for however much you send back to the grid. And when it started out, the payments were very high, and I'm talking sort of 10, 15 years ago now. And then towards the end of the subsidy, the payments started to go down quite a bit, but they were still very relatively lucrative. But then they ended the payments beginning of this year. I think it was March was the final deadline this year. And they have put something in place which is a bit of a replacement, but it basically means that you'll get something like the second part of the subsidy, which was money for sending your electricity back to the grid. But it's nothing like it was, I would say. You know, it's not half as supportive as it was.
It's an obvious question, really, but has that impacted on what you're able to do? It seems a real shame that that's gone, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It has impacted on what we can do, and it's especially impacted on the smaller sites and the small businesses. It's not such a big problem for, you know, huge solar farms, but yeah, I would say we luckily managed to get our last 4 sites done while the feed-in tariff was on offer. So those 4 sites will get subsidy for the next 20 years. And we really rushed that through, even sort of at the beginning of lockdown and just before lockdown, when we first heard about coronavirus, to get those sites completed and make sure that they did receive that subsidy. But now that we haven't got it, I don't think we will be looking at solar sites for another year or so, really, unless they're really big. So we've decided that we have to sort of deal with whatever we're thrown, and we have now gone into LED lighting instead. So that's a really good way to save carbon and save money on your energy bills for schools and for other sites like that. And actually, it's quite competitive with solar, because the amount of carbon that you do save is pretty amazing from switching to LED lights.
When you were, and continuingly are, to install solar panels or to replace lights with LED lighting, how do you access the money to actually buy the panel?
Yeah, so we fundraise, and we actually sell shares in SELCE to fundraise for it. So we sort of had a minimum investment of, I think it was either £250 or £500 per person. And we were offering we've done a number of share offers, but we were offering sort of between 4% and 3% interest paid on them. And you would have to leave your money in for the first 3 years, but after that you'll be able to withdraw your money on sort of request from us as well. So yeah, last share offer we had an overwhelming amount of support. It was just before Christmas, I think we managed to close it and raise what we actually needed to. So lots of people buying shares in SELCE as Christmas presents for their friends and family, which was great.
You don't have to live in Lewisham or locally to buy shares. You just have to make that commitment to leaving your money there for a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. You can be anywhere in the UK actually to buy shares. I think you could even be abroad to buy shares, as long as your country has the payment systems to sort it out. But yeah, it's just something that a lot of people do if they have a connection to Lewisham or they have a connection to South East London, because they feel like they're sort of improving their local area and they're improving where they came from, in a sense. So I would say most of our investors are local, but you can do it from anywhere.
Or from what you've heard, that people have said that the incentive for people to invest, to buy shares, is not the financial return, but is another kind of, what do you think incentivise people to get involved, to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak?
I think a lot of the people that invest in us because they think it's the right thing to do, first and foremost. And it's not always people that sort of have spare cash to put into these things. in some cases it is, and in some cases it is people that are investing for a return, and that is what they want to see. But quite a lot of our investors actually donate their return back into SELCE after we hand it out. So you can definitely tell that people are sort of involved in this just because they think it's the right thing to do. And a lot of people, if they have kids, feel like if they've bought shares for their kids, they're sort of investing in their own future as well. So I think there's that aspect to it.
That must feel really encouraging that people were doing that. It feels like a very positive, affirming thing to know that people are doing it because it's investing in the future. It just feels really beautiful. So that's lovely. Do you have a sort of particular project that you've found personally really inspiring, like one school or one place that you might be able to share the story of that's been particularly successful, or just nice in some way, or heartwarming in some way?
I think there are a few sites actually. Probably one of the most recent ones we've done, which I think is a really, really, really not necessarily the most exciting site in terms of technical ability, but I think it will have a good impact, and that is St Luke's Church in Downham. So St Luke's do a lot of programs for the community. They've got sort of a big Afro-Caribbean community that comes to the church as well. And the programs that they're offering, it's really, if you go there, you'll just realise how much of a hub it is for the community, and it really brings people together. So to be able to help lower their bills and then that money go back into what they're doing, it's really beneficial, I would say.
Sorry, just to be absolutely clear. So when say for example, the church in Downham, they have solar panels installed, they are able to draw on that electricity supply.
Yeah, so how it works is we essentially rent the roof of whatever site it is. So we rent the roof of the church, we put the panels on, and then the church will actually buy the electricity back off of us. But because we're generating electricity, we don't have the costs of sort of electricity retail that suppliers have. And we're funded by people that are ready to take a lower return on investment than traditional funders would be able to take. That means we can offer the electricity to the church at a much lower cost than it would be otherwise. Usually we can almost half the costs of the electricity to the site.
They get the rental from the roof. Do they get paid for that rental?
Usually it is just sort of a legal agreement. That means that the church doesn't have to maintain the panels on top of it. So yeah, they don't get a benefit from renting the roof out to us. It is just the sort of reduced cost on the electricity. That would be the benefit that they get.
I was thinking it must be wonderful for schools as well to have such a reduction in energy costs. Must be really amazing. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and for schools as well, part of it is just being able to show the kids this is what renewable energy looks like. And a lot of them will have a monitor in the reception maybe that'll tell them this is how much you're generating today, which is a really useful educational tool as well.
It's great that children can actually see it, because it becomes less remote then, doesn't it? It's not theory if you can actually see it on the roof of your school. And are the shares still open now, or is that community share offer sort of wrapped up for now?
So our most recent one has been wrapped up for now. We tend to do them sort of every 2 to 3 years, just because that's how long it takes us to get sites ready, to do all the feasibility studies and get all the legal agreements in place. So that one is closed for now. We probably will be doing one probably in 2 to 3 years again, I would say.
Keep an eye on that. I just wanted to ask you a little bit, Nadia, because I'm intrigued. I know that a lot of people that listen to these podcasts often contact me and say, how did that person end up with that job? Especially younger people, and I think it's quite interesting. So I just wondered if you might be able to speak a little bit about how you got to this position, into this job, what your journey was and what your interest was, and how you ended up here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I feel very privileged because it's such a happy job to be in, in comparison to a lot of other jobs. So I started out at, I guess the story really started when I was in secondary school, and I was actually living in Egypt there because my mum was teaching abroad. And one day I was, driving down this road, and it just had miles and miles of wind turbines on that road. And I thought it was wonderful because Egypt has a lot of power cuts as well. So I thought being able to generate your own power in your own country means you're not as reliant on other places for power. But then I looked at sort of who owned that solar farm, and it was just that wind farm, and it was just one really big company, and they were getting all the financial benefit out of it. There wasn't really much going to the people that lived there. And then I went to university and I studied politics and international relations, and that was down in Cornwall, on a sort of sustainability-based campus. So a lot of my friends there were actually studying renewable energy engineering, so I kind of got pulled into that side of it a bit naturally, I suppose, and joined some of their societies and their clubs like Engineering Without Borders. And then after that, I went and did an internship with a company that worked at the university campus. They had an office there, and they helped set up community energy groups across the southwest. So I was working on projects in Devon, in Burnham-on-Sea, in Wiltshire, in different places like that. And at one of the conferences that I went to, one of the Community Energy England conferences, I actually met people from SELCE just by accident on the off chance. And I was saying to them, oh, I was born in Lewisham and I haven't lived there for a long time, but I'll probably go back one day. So we kept in touch, and then I moved to London about a year or so later and worked in energy policy in central London. And at that point, I started volunteering at SELCE. So I was volunteering there for about a year and a half as a director. And then this job came up, and I thought, it's time to make the switch. It's time to do what I enjoy.
Really pleasingly full circle for you, and love it, and really nice serendipity that you managed to meet people who were doing what you were passionate about where you were born. It's really sort of beautiful story.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of it's just happened by chance. So I feel like it's not necessarily been me taking steps to get here. It's just sort of happened, and I've been put in the right place at the right time, which I feel really lucky about.
Obviously, volunteering in a way it is a kind of privilege in a way, because not everybody can afford to do it, and certainly not internships I think are problematic, but I think volunteering, if you can even a little bit, can help you sort of find connections with your community, connect with things you're interested in. So I think it's really lovely to hear that you came to where you are from a sort of volunteering place. That's really, really hopeful. What a brilliant journey.
I mean, the internship that I did was actually a paid internship. So that was paid for by the university that I was at. So I was really lucky to get that funding as well. And then when I did come and volunteer here, obviously I was working full time in my energy policy job. And that year was it was a pretty stressful year because I was, just starting out in London, working sort of 9 till 6:30, and then getting an hour train home. But yeah, I think if you manage to find time for these things, the people that you meet and the network that you build just gives you so many opportunities. So it does give back to you in the same way that you're sort of putting your extra time and effort into it.
Really lovely friendships and learning as well, which I think is really great. And if people were going to come and volunteer for you, I just had a couple of questions around that. One is, what do you look for in volunteers, I guess, is the first question.
That's a good question. So it really depends on the area that you want to volunteer in, because our work is quite different in different areas. But the main thing is obviously just be passionate about what we do, and be flexible, I would say. All our volunteers have got to be able to pick things up and run with them and learn quite fast, and work with a really diverse group of people. So those are two key things for us. Anyone that has been previously trained in energy advice or has sort of the domestic energy advisor qualification is super, super helpful to us. Again, anyone that has worked in sort of solar or worked on LED lighting, or, you know, even worked in law or finance, bits like that, marketing, all very useful to us. I mean, there's a huge amount of work to do, so whatever your skills are, you'll fit in.
If you are looking to volunteer, and I think there's obviously such a sort of yearning in people to help and engage with the community. So it's really useful, I think, to think to yourself, this is what I can offer, where can I fit in? And there's always somewhere, isn't there? Even if that what you require isn't on someone's list, someone else might help out with tree planting, or, you know, there's lots of engaging, I think. And what do you think people get out of volunteering with you?
I would say there's two main things. The first thing is the people that you meet, and again, sort of the network that you build, the friends that you make. It's amazing, because when I came to this, I really didn't think, and it's very naive of me and probably a bit judgmental of me to think that, you know, a small charity in Southeast London, there's not going to be people that have been sort of high flying and have loads of skills in different areas. But I was very, very wrong. The people that you'll meet through SELCE and through those sort of wider networks are really experts in their fields. So just being able to learn off of them has been an amazing benefit that I've managed to get, and definitely that other people managed to get out of it. And then I guess the other side of it is sort of the new skills that you learn. So we have been able to run a few programs in the past where we actually train people to give energy advice as well. Or we'll send people to get qualifications in energy advice and little bits like that. But yeah, I mean, most recently I had a student volunteering with me from Kingston University, and he'd done a master's in renewable energy engineering, but he'd never actually worked on any practical renewable energy projects. So when he volunteered with us, it was his first time that he'd gone on the roof and actually looked at a solar panel install and was helping the installers actually put the panels on the roof. So I think that was really beneficial for him.
I think the doing is really important for all of us. You know, the actual getting your hands dirty, metaphorically and literally, feels really, really important to find out what that is. So that's absolutely brilliant. I know this might sound like a really obvious question for you, but I don't think it necessarily is for everyone. For you, why is sustainable energy so important in terms of sort of the global climate crisis, the local climate and pollution challenges? Why is sustainable energy so important in that space?
I think there's so many reasons, and they're probably not all obvious reasons. I agree with you. The first one would be that climate scientists have told us we've got 12 years to turn this around. Just 12 years. It's hardly any time that we've got left to change global warming and to change what's going on in the world. And if we don't put the work in now, we are going to see more craziness than we've already seen. I mean, you know, how hot this summer was absolutely insane. Again, how cold last winter was absolutely insane. A few years ago, we saw flooding. We've seen bad earthquakes recently across Turkey, across Greece, other places like that. So the climate issue is absolutely crucial, and we need to do something about it now. Absolutely. On the other hand, I think we have a huge problem in the way that energy benefits certain people and disadvantages other people. So the way our energy system has been set up, the way it has been traditionally using sort of oil and coal and fossil fuels, natural gas, it's very much been a case where we have gone to places that have an abundance of this natural resource, and we've taken it not fairly and not ethically either, and we've used it for our own benefit, and we use a huge amount of it as well. And that's left a lot of countries in absolute dismay, you know, brought to the ground, really. And I think the thing about sustainable energy and renewable energy is what we call decentralized. So rather than having one big power station or one big oil field where you extract all the oil and then you send it all out, you've actually got lots of little power stations across the country or around the world where, you know, even a homeowner, someone's got solar panels on their roof, they're a mini power station effectively. So once lots of people start having involvement in that, and what lots of people start having sort of equity in that, I suppose power that comes with having one centralized system gets really spread out, and everyone gets a say in how things are run. Everyone gets the benefit of different sites generating power. And I think, just the way in that sustainable energy is decentralized, I suppose, and the nature of it being smaller, I would say is more beneficial, because you really do get more of a spread of wealth than you would be able to traditionally with fossil fuels.
Really beautifully summarised, so thank you for that. It's very exciting to hear that there are places where the considerations and concerns of social justice can meet the considerations and concerns of the climate crisis. And I just think you put that brilliantly. And it also kind of feels like sort of quite quietly revolutionary. You know, doesn't need anybody to be setting fire to anything. It just needs work, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's very much down to people taking it up themselves and doing the work themselves. So, you know, if you and I both put solar panels on our roof, we know that we've made a difference. If we can't put solar panels on our roof and we invest in a project like the projects that SELCE do or other community energy groups do, we know that we've made a difference, not necessarily on our own roofs, but to the community. It's still there. So I think that carries some challenges, but it also carries a lot of opportunities. You know, getting people to take up things of their own accord can often be a very long process, and getting people to change how they see things can be a very long and tiring process. But the support that we've seen for renewable energy go up over the past few years has been absolutely insane. And the work that, you know, groups like Extinction Rebellion have done and other climate campaigners has really pushed it to the forefront now. And it's actually the case where the public want it, and the governments are the ones that are trying to catch up and actually implement it.
I think it's really interesting. We're in an interesting place because we absolutely have to collectively acknowledge this whole 12 years thing. But alongside that, I'm aware, as I'm sure you are, Nadia, that is terrifying to a lot of people. So the challenge for us, anyone that's trying to sort of support change, is balancing between making sure people hear the truth, but they're not so scared, they just are immobilised by fear.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely get what you mean.
So we have to do something, but this is what we can do. And I think that's really important, and I'm really grateful to you and your organisation for doing that, because I think a lot of the time people just want to hear what they can do. They don't necessarily just want to hear terrible. It's terrible to do this. So I think that's brilliant. So having said that, well, I'll get onto that in a moment. I just wondered if I'd like to invite you on a little flight of fancy just before we finish up. So if you had your allow yourself to have an imaginings of a utopian-ish future where things were improved in all the ways that you'd like to see it, I just wondered what that future might look like and be like for you if you were able to wave your imaginary magic wand and make the future brighter, what would that be like for you?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I've had a lot of time to think about this one. So yeah, so what I would wish for is a few things. The first thing would be that if we look at the UK, for example, the first thing would be that all of our homes are homes that don't use more energy than they actually generate themselves. So everyone can be self-sufficient in the energy that they consume. And I think that's crucial because the amount of energy we use now, even the way our homes are built, they just aren't built to hold the heat in half as much as they should. So we end up putting in central heating, and we end up, paying for electric heaters and paying for extra blankets and this and that. And that's not the solution. We just need to build our homes so that they don't need as much energy to heat them up and make us comfortable. And that, again, is something that SELCE is working on, sort of giving people advice on how they can retrofit their homes for energy efficiency. But I suppose the second thing would be, especially around sort of social inequality, would be that we have, and this is gonna, I don't know how this would be implemented, but that we have one currency for the whole of the world, and everyone is able to, there's not sort of an imbalance between different currencies and the cost of goods in different places around the world, so that everyone's sort of on a level playing field when it comes to being entrepreneurial and making money and buying what they need to buy for themselves. And then again, the last one again would be around social inequality. So everyone would not need passports to travel, or if they had to have passports, everyone could travel when they wanted and when they needed and get in and out of places. Because I think we forget when we are in the UK how easy it is for us to travel and how hard it is for other people to travel. I mean, when I was volunteering in Ghana last year, all of the students there have never left Ghana. And that's the norm for everyone, because to actually apply for a visa to go anywhere, you have to have a huge amount of money in your bank account to go through that process. And applying for a visa takes months as well. So yeah, I think those would be the three things for me personally. I mean, what about you? What's your view of a utopian future?
I think I've been really influenced by friends who are interested in science fiction, because I think science fiction sort of thinking and writing is really useful for us when we think about this, because science fiction writers are able to sort of go there a bit, and so I'm sort of really interested in this idea of sort of a post-scarcity world where there's enough, everybody's needs are met in terms of food and shelter and the basic needs, and that we don't all have to work all the time full time, so that we all have time for leisure and pleasure and learning and finding out. So I kind of think maybe this post-scarcity world would sort the rest of everything else out, because there'd be time for people to learn and to evolve and to invent things. But yeah, that's not my idea. That's lots of amazing science fiction writers who've been quite a big influence on me over the last year. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's been lovely. As I've been talking to people, hearing what their ideas are, I feel like by the end of when I've wrapped up the podcast, I'll be able to get another little list, a manifesto of ideas for the future. It's really interesting, really good idea. Yeah, why not? We might as well let ourselves, because I kind of think as well it's really important to give yourself the permission to imagine that. You have to know what you want in order to travel there, and then we have to work out. We have to do the heavy lifting of getting there, but we have to let ourselves imagine first, I think. Do you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I think what made a big change in terms of the renewable energy space was all the targets that have been put in by different governments. So, when the EU put in their renewable energy directive targets, and now the government have put in their net zero carbon target, those have been the things that have actually sort of made people aware that we do need to drive this agenda forward. And I think without a goalpost, you can't start running. So yeah, I think definitely imagining what the future should look like and knowing that is what helps you get there, for sure.
I think you need hope, because hope gives you a direction in which to travel, or at least indicates the direction in which you can travel, and then you can set off, hopefully. I was just going to ask you, actually, I wasn't going to ask you this, but I think it might be a good idea. I was wondering if people were listening now and like, I want to do one thing kind of in the next maybe 24 hours that's going to help me use less energy. Do you have a tip for something that you could kind of do kind of nowish? I guess it's the LED lighting.
Yes, there's a few things you can do. The first thing you the first thing you should do, if you haven't done this already, because it will save you money and it will save you carbon emissions, it won't necessarily save how much energy you use, is switch suppliers to someone that has 100% renewable energy supply. So we have a partnership with Co-op Energy at the moment, and they have a tariff that is supplied by community energy groups across the UK like us. So you could opt for that option. But if you just go on to the switching sites and have a look at who's offering renewable energy, definitely that is the first thing you should be doing, because it will save you money. It's so easy to do. Yeah, you just do it all from your laptop. There's nothing else that you need to do, and it happens within a few days. Again, if you're going to look at that, try and get a smart meter as well. Not only does a smart meter help you know how much energy you're using, and also I would say if you get a smart meter, leave it out somewhere. Don't just stick it in the cupboard, because you do want to know what energy you're using, and you want to know when you're switching things on how much it is costing you, because it does show you like in pence. When I switch on a kettle, this is how much I'm using. But yeah, it also helps the rest of the energy system understand what you're using and how you're using it. But yeah, I would say to reduce your energy consumption, you really want to, especially since it's getting colder now, find out where your home is losing heat. So if you've got old windows and you know that at the edge of those windows there are a few gaps and you're going to be losing heat through them, do what you can. Just tape up the edges as a minimum. There are obviously other measures you can buy and put in place, but for now, just tape up the edges. It will save you a little bit. A little bit is better than nothing. Again, same with your doors. If you've got big gaps under your doors, you can get door brushes. They're really cheap, and you just fit them to the bottom of the door and they keep the heat in. But yeah, just little bits like that. Again, switching to LED lights if you can. That costs a little bit more, but definitely a good option long term.
And if someone was listening and wanted to support you, the organisation, or get in touch, or just find out a little bit more, is the website the best place to?
Yes. So have a look at the website. We're also on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, so you can get in touch on any of those as well. Or just, drop me an email. My email is nadia@selce.org.uk. But yeah, I guess the support that we need right now is just sort of raising awareness about what we do. That really, really helps us quite a bit. So if you're on social media, a retweet or a like on Facebook is super helpful to us.
It's telling each, like sharing the information that you've generously imparted as well about simple steps. Just doing something to make a start is really brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was really lovely.
Great treat being able to spend time in the company of such inspiring people during this very strange time that we've had. So thank you, and I hope to meet you one day in real life.
One day in a world where we can meet. Yeah. Yeah, we should definitely make that happen. But thank you so much. Yeah, lovely to be on, and good luck with the book and everything. I hope it goes well.